Mr. Buffett, when trying to value a company, do you place greater emphasis on the PE ratio or the PEG, price earnings growth, or is there another metric you use to value a company?
The most important thing to learn is how to value a business. It's also the toughest to explain. I look for certain, you look for certain things that allows you to narrow it down, like I was saying about the Spassky-Fisher situation. So if I'm a basketball coach, and I see a guy, I'm walking around the campus here, and I see somebody 7 feet tall, I'm interested. Now, he may not be coordinated. We may not be able to keep him in school. He may be robbing stores at night or something, but he's still the right guy to be looking at. I mean, we can work with this guy. So I am interested in 7-footers, maybe 6'10". And if I see some guy that's 5'3", and he comes up to me, and he's dribbling away, and he's telling me, doing fancy moves, and he says, "Coach," I said, "I'm your guy." I say, "Yeah, but if you get in there against these 7-footers, I'm not sure he'll be dribbling exactly the same way. I'm going to skip him. He may be a wonderful prospect and all that, but I'm not interested. So I am looking for signals that tell me in investments what height and a few things might tell me if I was a basketball coach. In the end, what I'm going to buy is the business where I feel extremely certain about the competitive advantage, extremely certain about the integrity and ability of the management, and where I think the discounted flow of the cash that business will produce over time makes sense in relation to its current price. You really are looking for a business where you see the future. And that's why we don't get in tech. It isn't that I don't love the computer and think it's doing all kinds of things for society. I just don't know what it's going to look like in terms of who's going to be selling what to whom and at what prices and against whom and all of that sort of thing 10 years from now. Whereas I know that people are going to be chewing Wrigley's chewing gum in 10 years. I mean, people sitting in front of a computer chewing gum will not behave way differently than people chewing gum in this audience as we talk. I mean, there are certain things that won't be affected. Gillette razor blades. I mean, that 70% of the value worldwide of razors and blades is Gillette. That's after almost 100 years of shaving, and everybody knows what a razor blade does. They all know how to buy the steel. They all know how to sell it through Walmart or whomever. But 70% of the world. Now, part of that's because men don't like to change as much. I mean, if a man gets happy with something, he doesn't fool around with it a lot. Women are a little more inclined to experiment. But for $25 a year, something you do every day, you get a wonderful experience with Gillette. What better is the world going to offer you? You're getting a claim currently about some 4-blade razor, but don't worry about that one. The 70%, just think of that. Coca-Cola, 19 billion cases of Coke. I mean, not Coke, but Coke products sold a year. Everybody in the world drinking it. You think, will that change dramatically in the next 10 years? I bet my life against that. We sell See's candy in California. There's 35 million people in California. They did the right thing last Tuesday, incidentally. People ask how I got involved in the Schwarzenegger campaign. I won a look-alike contest. I mean, but here they are, 35 million people. Everybody in California has something in their mind about See's candy. What candies are in your mind? Number one candy bar is Snickers. Number one candy bar 10 years ago was Snickers. Number one candy bar 20 years ago was Snickers. People don't fool around with candy bars. I mean, you cannot come out with lots of new bars and intrigue people. It's not like, perfume or other things maybe where people experiment. If you go into the drugstore and you say, "I want a Snickers bar," and it's 60 cents, and the druggist says, "I've got something just as good for 55 cents called Joe Schmo's, caramel and nut bar," you're going to walk across the street. Now, when you walk across the street for a product, then you got a business. I mean, that is the test. And where a nickel doesn't make a difference. And so it's, there is no good way to compete with Snickers. You want something where price competition is not solely going to be the determining factor. And that's true of razor blades, it's true of Snickers, it's true of See's candy, it's true of Coca-Cola, and there's a lot of things of which it isn't true. That moat is what is differentiation of product, differentiation of service, differentiation of location, whatever it may be. And that's essential. Next. Hi.
Clayton Williams. Mr. Buffett, have the extensive technological changes in market mechanisms and the internet over the last 20 years caused a meaningful shift in investor psychology, or are investors still making basically the same mistakes?
No. Incidentally, I was just drinking some of this. If there's any in the audience, I don't care whether you drink it, but open the can, if you will. We get the profit on 1 out of every 12 of these. So, now I would say that the internet and the high-tech boom was an excuse for people to go crazy, but it did not. And people go crazy in markets occasionally. You can read, the South Sea bubble. You can read the tulip mania. You can go back and read. People go crazy periodically, and high IQ people go crazy. I mean, it's a fascinating sort of phenomenon to watch. And one of the things I did in school, I'd go back and read papers from all the earlier panics and booms and so on. It's just people make the same mistakes over and over again, and they're enormously subject to a herd instinct, and they will go crazy. And it helps in going crazy to have some sort of an excuse. It sounds like it's different this time, but the truth is that if I've got $10 in my pocket that I received as a dividend from a business, it doesn't make any difference whether that came from Wrigley's Chewing Gum or from an internet company. I mean, the money spends the same. So the test of a business is not whether it does something glamorous, something new. It's how much cash it's going to produce over time. It's the only test. I mean, the reinvesting is laying out money to get more money later on. Why lay it out otherwise? And the money doesn't know where it comes from. Now, where it comes from may determine something about the enduring competitive advantage and all that sort of thing. But money made from an internet company is no different than money made, from a textile company or from a candy company or anything else. So the internet, anything new, it was uranium in the 50s, it was computer leasing in the late 60s. I mean, all kinds of things come along where rising prices coincide with glamour. And after a point, the rising prices themselves become the rationale for buying. People may dress it up in other forms in their mind, a little more respectable intellectually, but what they're really doing is they're just getting excited. And they will always get excited. I mean, greed and fear are the big things in markets. And you will see in your lifetime greed and fear at different points that equal anything you've seen in the past. The human race does not get smarter in that respect, and they won't. That's a cheerful message. I mean, I want you to understand, you will get a chance to profit from others' folly in a huge way, and the trick is to profit from it, not participate in it. The proper temperament is far more important in successful investing than points of intellect. I mean, if you've got a reasonable intellect and the right temperament, you'll get very rich. And if you've got the wrong temperament for it, you'll get done in at some point. Anything times 0 is 0. I mean, it's they found that out at long-term capital management, for example, in 1998. What happened, would happen very, very, very seldom, but it does happen. You had, where was the largest earthquake in the United States, continental United States, in our recorded history? It was in New Madrid, Missouri. Now nobody down at New Madrid is sitting there worrying about another 8.4 or something, but it was, it was an extraordinary event. In fact, there were 3 of them in about a 2-month period. The improbable happens, and in financial markets, the improbable happens far more often than people think by running statistical regressions and so on. 5 sigma events aren't 5 sigma events, and you just have to keep your sanity, basically. If you just always write down on a piece of paper, if you're buying stock in a company, whether it makes widgets or it's an internet company and it has 100 million shares out and it's selling at 10, you say, I am buying XYZ at $1 billion. You're buying the business because, and then just list down the reasons. And if more people did that, you won't have bubbles, but they won't do it. They'll give in exactly the same emotions that people have for centuries and centuries and centuries. And like I say, that's what makes incredible opportunities in the stock market. I mean, that's why stocks frequently have a high that's twice the low in a given year when everybody knows a business doesn't change in value like that except under unusual circumstances. Yep.